Oh, wonderful.
If we can kind of gather together, if we can ask everyone to draw near just for a second, I'll give you a chance to talk to them. Sure, listen pretty well, okay?
Sure, okay, sure.
Hope you've gotten all of your questions answered. Hopefully you've satisfied all your interests. Is there anything you saw that you would like to have addressed by any of us? Anything regarding the church?
When do you think the earliest burials here?
The earliest?
There is, I believe there's someone documented the burial around 1910 and 1920.
Earlier than that, 1907.
1907.
The cemetery right out near the cemetery right out near that tree where the person was buried in 1907.
Okay.
Born during the years of slavery.
Okay.
There are several people who were born here during the years of slavery. To include both his great-great-grandfather and my great-great-grandfather, who were brothers. And well, actually, your great-grandfather, he's not buried here.
No. Now that's a nice transition. There is a sister.
By the way, this is the president of the Friends of Cherry Grove, Barrett Hanson. He had to come all the way from Stone Mountain. It was a bit late, but let me yield at this time to Barrett Hanson. This is the group that we've been honored to have with us today. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you all for coming out first. Thank you all for coming out. My pleasure. There is a sister cemetery that is, I'm going to say, less than a mile from here.
Yes.
Called the Cohen Town Cemetery. Now, as some of you may know, the name Cohen is actually Jewish, means prince. Our ancestors had the name Cohen, which we believe is a corruption of the name Kearns, Q-U-E-R-N-S, sometimes spelled Q-U-E-A-R-N-S, sometimes simply spelled K-E-R-N-S, depending on the census taker. Right. So, there are several spellings of this, and we come to the conclusion that when the census taker was taking the census of our ancestors and them attempting, remember, former slaves, attempting to pronounce the name Kearns, over a period of time, Kearns became Cohen, a whole lot easier to spell. Yeah. And so they changed their name, which was formerly Arnett, to the name Cohen. And the reason they changed it to the name Cohen is because back in 1818, their former master, a man by the name of John Kearns, he died. Well, John Kearns was a sort of a complicated man in that he was also a Quaker. And as many of you know, the Quakers left Georgia because of opposition to slavery. Well, he was a Quaker, but he was also a businessman, so he held on to his slaves. However, when he died, he freed them, all right? Now, John Kearns did not have any children, so he left his estate to his nephews, the Arnetts. That's where the name Arnett comes from. Now, the Arnetts said that, well, John Kearns freed his slaves and he gave them 100 acres of land, and he designated 2 executives over the estate. The Arnetts contested the will, saying that the state of Georgia did not allow for free people of color. Therefore, we need to keep the slaves in the estate, and we need to keep the 100 acres. So as opposed to being free for people of color as early as the 1820s, the language enslaved obviously into the Emancipation Proclamation and the 13th Amendment. And so there is, all of that to say, there is a cemetery called Cohen Town Cemetery. And the earliest death on that statue, on that monument, is the 1880s. In fact, we just found our great-great-grandmother there, and it's on Facebook.
How bad it is.
Oh, yes.
Wow. Well, and that makes sense because the congregation starts 1875, so.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Well, the unique thing about the establishment of this congregation, it is a daughter church to Springfield Baptist Church, which was founded in 1868 in the city of Washington.
We drove by that this morning, so they got to see that.
Yeah, there were so many members there, and people were coming from so far in the countryside. 7 daughter churches established themselves, this being one of them, founded in 1875.
We were talking about the monuments. One of the most notable monuments is that one straight ahead, pretty tall there. That's the first pastor there, Reverend W.M. Blackman, the first pastor of Cherry Grove. On the other side is his wife, Amy. Up here on the right, back to the name Cohen, is Sally Farrell Cohen. Sally Farrell Cohen was born in 1843 and died in 1949. She's 106 years old. As I just mentioned, if you can just imagine, by the time she died, we had entered the atomic age.
Yeah.
The Cold War was about to get started. The next year, the Korean War started in 1950. That huge span of time, and as I mentioned to some of you, It was because of her testimony that allowed myself and Cousin Ed to become members of the Sons of the American Revolution. Because of her testimony.
Which was a connector between the old generation and our generation.
And so you will find a lot of corns buried here. If they're not corns, then they're related to the corns. In fact, everybody's related to the corns. Everybody's related to the corns. And so this church and this congregation, this land has been in the hands of the same congregation since 1875. A white farmer by the name of Wiley Dubose willed this land, gave this land, all 4 acres to this land, the congregation in 1875. The history said to a few of his faithful servants, and they chose the name Cherry Grove because of the plentifulness of the cherry grove tree on the land. There's a church not too far from here called Mulberry, and I presume there's a bunch of mulberries on the land. And so they started up, like many churches did, as a log cabin. And so the idea for many African Americans, especially since the church was so important to them, once they got their hands on a piece of land, first thing they usually did was to start a church. Second thing, a school, because they were not getting any funding from the municipal government, from the county. In fact, we just mentioned the Rosenwald School. The Rosenwald Foundation didn't get started until 1917. That's right. Rosenwald partnered with Booker T. Washington in 1913 and 1914. Booker T. Washington up to Tuskegee University. But prior to that, you had farmers, tenant farmers, midwives, sharecroppers, who put together their time, their talent, their treasure, what little it was, to produce this because funding wasn't coming from any place else.
And education was one of the highest priorities of former enslaved Africans after that period of slavery. At every black church and everywhere, you'll have at least one school.
With emphasis on had. This is one of the few remaining, even in this county. I think how many do you have?
Washington, 1, 2, maybe 3. One AME church, another church out here.
There used to be about 41. So, Booker T. Washington once said that the tragedy is not in reaching the one's goal, but not having a goal to reach. So their goal to reach was having some place for their children to come to learn the rudiments of reading, writing, and arithmetic. My grandmother went here, made it to the 5th grade.
As did mine.
Yeah, as did his, and said that we may not have gone far, but what we learned, we really learned. And so if you can imagine, from 24 to 64 students in a 465 square room building, no heat, no air, where they did have a potbelly stove in the middle. Dirt roads, but 64 kids. Now, of course, they were a lot more well-mannered than today, but still, 64. That was quite a lot.
Professor West pointed out that something that I know as a result of my experience at the Rosenwald School in Tignall, Georgia, many of the older children were helpful in teaching the younger children, those in primer, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. So while the responsibility of that one teacher was great, she had the assistance of older children who desired to help the younger children. It's probably the opposite now. When I want to learn something about the computer, I come to someone. Y'all don't
Exactly. One mentioned the age gap. One of the things that I uncovered, fell into, it was not looking for it, but as you notice the report cards and the ages on the report cards and the grades, first of all, you see a falling away of the male because the work was needed. And the females would generally go further.
And even when he was ready to join the Army during World War II, he managed the plantation owners. I need you guys on the farm, and he was exempted from the military. Something he kind of regretted later on in life. But
yeah, they co-opted the draft board and prevented it. Gerald Sheik wrote about a dissertation about that.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to see what happened in Georgia, and Wilkes County was one of the areas where they usurped that, and they preserved their labor supply.
Yes.
And another southern community, the Rosenwald School agent, was to meet with White County School Board building a Rosenwald school, and he just looked at it and says, no, we need these boys in the field. In fact, if you be good, I'll give you a code right now if you go out and chop cotton. That's how bad it was at one time.
From my understanding of the Rosenwald School, there had to be certain county buy-in.
They had
it wasn't
to buy
just an
in.
open grant.
No.
Right. Buy-in by the congregation.
Sort of like a challenge grant
Exactly.
nowadays.
Exactly. But yeah, from the little schoolhouse here, there are now grandchildren and great-grandchildren from Pasadena, California, to St. Louis, to Baltimore, to Boston, who have gone abroad. One descendant, Leroy Brigham, who was an uncle of mine,
Okay.
his wife, who was an aunt, was a part of the Women Army Corps during World War II. Graduated from Spelman, then went to the Women Army Corps, came back, and then went to Columbia University. And so, that information.
If you guys aren't inspired now, I don't know what could inspire you. That's incredible.
Thank you so much.
Great.
Sorry.
Thank you. You're coming back.
So then, to your point, you probably noticed the several veteran VA stones.
Yeah.
One of the rites of passage in this community, throughout this county, in fact, was to go into the military if you could. My dad wasn't able to because the farmer had influence. But my mother had 3 brothers. 2 went to World War II. 1 was decorated for valor and combat. 1 to the Korean War. I followed myself. I'm a retired military man, as did my brother. It was the thing to do. None of us evaded. We went into the military. And I'll hasten to add that among the descendants of people here at Cherry Grove, doctors, lawyers, in fact, you have a PhD cousin, don't you, in Boston. I have a niece who's a graduate of Harvard School of Business. And I can go on and on and on. In fact, there are 2 big reunions every year. One up in Washington, D.C. That group called themselves, and many of them have not even been here, but they meet every year because of their memories and because of the family stories about what happened here. They're meeting the 3rd weekend in August, and Barry and I have talked about trying to go up there to join that group. But we have a reunion ourselves down here, at least my family does, in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm not sure if your branch of the family meets anywhere else, but there's still some cohesiveness. Many of our family members, when they left here, moved to enclaves in the city. My family moved to an enclave to Charlotte, North Carolina, when we left here in '53, and we all lived in the Greenville community. And most of us joined either New Hope Baptist Church or Second Calvary Baptist Church. And when someone dies in the family, the funeral is, because they've been members there and their children have been members there, I often go back and get reunited with many of the cousins and friends from this area, from Cherry Grove and other local schools, because there was a tendency to go from here to an enclave of like people in the city.
Well, God bless you for what you do.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you all for coming.
He has some. Ask Barrett because I gave it to him. It's in his hand.
See, and now it's dangerous to have Ed and I together because he would say something that sparked something in my mind. And I know y'all need to get going, so I would try, I guess I would sit on that for now. But I wanted to mention, you mentioned the rites of passage to the military. A lot of folks, especially African Americans, left during the Northern Migration. And especially after World War II, because when black men came back after World War II, the mentality all changed. I mean, we look at Rosa Parks as being the mother of the civil rights movement, and rightfully so. But that was in the 50s. But if you go back to the 40s, when black men came back from World War II, their mentality has been entirely changed. For many of them, first time out of this local little hamlet called Wilkes County, Georgia. And then for some, they just got tired of looking at the southbound end of Northbound News. You can picture that. And so
they had laid their lives on the line for the country.
That's right.
In terms of the labor union up north. So it's all, as Einstein said, it's all connected. It's all connected.
But you know what? That changed my father, a white man. And he was in the army when he was integrated by Truman.
By Truman, exactly.
And it made significant changes in his attitude. So, you know, this thing is never done. You never cease to understand.
No.
It's just amazing. It
And thank you for giving these students this chance to learn. Because I know
I want to get one of your cards.
it's just outstanding.